Module 1 Part 2. The Corporation and the Corporate Governance by Lopana, Om Ba Hen and Solteo.
Good day everyone. I, Jordan Christian Umbahen, together with Adrian Lopena and Meljan Sulteo, are going to discuss modules 1.4 to 1.7. Module 1.4, the role of non-executive directors, administrators, management buy-ins and buyouts, executive share schemes, and etc. in corporate operations. So first, let us differentiate executive directors to non-executive directors. Executive directors have management responsibilities, meaning they are the one involved in the routine management of the firm as well as he or she is the full-time employee of that company. Executive directors are not just a member of the company's board, but they are also the employees of the company charged with executive responsibilities of managing the enterprise, while non-executive director does not have management responsibilities. They are called the guardian of neutralness who seeks to safeguard the company's interests. A non-executive director is an objective, independent, and unbiased individual who provides a creative, strategic, and unique contribution in the boardroom. Non-executive director has the same general responsibilities to the company as any other director. They are expected constructively to challenge and help develop strategy to participate actively in the decision-making process of the board and scrutinize the performance of the management in meeting agreed goals and objectives. Non-executive directors also challenge, question, and monitor the CEO and the senior management. They bring an independent perspective to decision-making and hold senior management to account, whilst also supporting and mentoring them. It's also crucial that non-executive directors have the same exact access to sensitive information in the company like all other directors as well. These are the roles of non-executive directors. First, performance review. Non-executive directors are required to evaluate the performance of the management team in terms of meeting goals and objectives. They also monitor the executive members of the board, may even remove the senior management, and plan the subsequent appointments. The directors are also required to oversee the performance reporting of the company. Additionally, they ensure that the responsibilities towards stakeholders are understood and accomplished consistently. Second, strategic decision. Non-executive directors are responsible for objectively looking at the plans framed by the executive team. They help with formulating and overseeing the corporate strategy by providing constructive criticism and a broader view of the external factors affecting the business. They provide an external perspective and challenge the existing plans, thus helping to improve business strategies. Non-executive directors also set values and standards for the company in collaboration with the executive partners. Third is time commitment. A non-executive director must commit a substantial amount of time for overseeing the company. Hence, when appointed, the director should disclose to the board their other important time commitments. They should keep the board informed of any other significant changes to his or her schedule. They should obtain the chairman's approval before accepting any additional commitments that can affect his or her role. A non-executive director is needed to make time out of his or her schedule to meet the expectations outlined in the appointment letter. Fourth is risk management. Non-executive directors share with the executive partners the responsibility of developing frameworks and controls for assessing and regulating risk. They should assure the stakeholders that the financial information is accurate and financial controls and risk management systems are robust and secure. Lastly, people. Non-executive directors can make connections outside the company and add further value to the company. The external connections can help the company in achieving its objectives and mission. In addition, a non-executive director can represent the company to outside firms. Working with other board members, they ensure that sufficient financial and human resources are available to meet business objectives. So what is the importance of non-executive director in a company? First, executive directors holding C-level positions may face a conflict of interest with the stakeholders or the agency. Hence, a non-executive director is believed to objectively act in the interest of the company and its stakeholders. Non-executive directors are appointed to challenge the performance of the management team and the company. Third, they also contributes towards ensuring that the board members achieve their objectives. Fourth, the experiences of a non-executive director from a different field may be valuable to the company. They bring in a wider perspective and outside experience, contributing to strategic developments. Fifth, the network of external contacts provided by a non-executive director is valuable to companies. And lastly, the directors may be able to fill in the expertise gap in the management team. So let's proceed to administrators. Administrators involve a great deal of multitasking. You will work with teams, oversee the operations within your company, manage groups, coordinate with management, and engage in planning according to the needs of your company. Administration department is also called the backbone of an organization. An effective administrator is an asset of an organization. He or she is the link between an organization's various departments and ensures the smooth flow of information from one part to the other. Thus, without an effective administration, an organization would not run professionally and smoothly. These are the roles of an administrator. First is planning and organizing. Planning is the most vital task of an administrator. It is a responsibility for him or her to plan long-term objectives that can help the organization to reach its ultimate goal. Moreover, to execute these plans and get success is again a big responsibility. The professionals in the admin department in any company need to analyze that how, when, where, and with whom the plan should be made and executed accordingly. Organizing is again equally important, which lets the administrator coordinate the efforts of a business to reach heights of success. Next is directing. So after planning and organizing are done, the administrator begins direction, which is to be followed by all in the company, leading the employees within the company to attain the main objective of the organization needs the amalgamation of resources and an effective support system. An interpersonal skill, which is the most commonly found talent among the administrators, is essential as he or she needs to interact and deal with people with different personalities. The other one is staffing. Staffing is another important role of an administrator. For this, complete knowledge about the company and to understand what it requires is very necessary. The administrator must interact and coordinate with other departments of the organization, including the human resource department, not totally the HR department, but also the admin department too, to actively take part in the recruitment and screening process. After the hiring process is done, the admin team should keenly appraise the progress of the new member of the company. The fourth and last is the liaison. An efficient administrator is a liaison between employees and management. The admin team understands the need for the employees as well as the management and hence plan things accordingly to meet their demands. It helps to maintain a balance in the organization and also to keep a positive environment free from any other conflicts. It is the sole responsibility of an administrator to take care of the expectations and performance of each individual. So let us proceed to management buyout or MBO. It is a transaction where a company's management team purchases the assets and operation of a business they manage. A management buyout is appealing to professional managers because of the greater potential rewards and control from being owner of the business rather than employees. In its simplest form, a management buyout involves the management team of a company combining their resources to acquire all or part of the company they manage. Most of the time, the management team takes full control and ownership, using their expertise to grow the company and drive it forward. One prime example of a management buyout is when Michael Dell, the founder of Dell, the computer company, paid $25 billion in 2013 as part of the management buyout of the company he originally founded, taking it private so he could exert more control over the direction of the company. Does anyone think how does a management buyout work? A management buyout works through financial and legal procedures, most often in one of two scenarios. First is exit strategy. Large corporations want to sell the business or divisions that are no longer part of their core business. And second, owner retirement. Typically, it is in private businesses where an owner wants to retire. So now let us discuss how funding in a management buyout works. It is rare that a management team will have sufficient funds on their own to buy the company, and external finance will be needed. So MBOs are usually funded via a combination of these sources. First is management contribution. While they might not be able to fund the whole transaction, the management team is usually required to introduce personal funds to provide confidence to a funder and to demonstrate commitment. A rule of thumb is 1 year salary, but funders may be flexible on this depending on the perspective risk of the transaction. Second is asset finance. Via leveraging against the assets in the company, it is usually property, stocks, or debtors. Third is bank debt. In addition to asset finance, banks will often also provide a cash flow term loan repayable over 3 to 5 years to support an MBO. Fourth is private equity. This is an increasing source of finance even at the smaller end of the market, with many funds looking to back management team to scale their company. And lastly, vendor loan notes. If all of the above is not enough, often the vendor themselves have to help fund the transition and leave some of their consideration in the company as loan notes to be paid over time. So if you are asking why management buyout? Management buyouts are viewed as good investment opportunities by hedge funds and large financiers. We usually encourage the company to go private so that it can streamline operations and improve profitability away from the public. Most obviously, it allows for a smooth transition of ownership. Since the new owners know the company, there is reduced risk of failure going forward. Other employees are less likely to be concerned, and existing clients and trading partners are reassured that it will be business as usual. Lastly, an MBO's advantage over an MBI is that as the existing managers are acquiring the business, they have a much better understanding of it and there is no learning curve involved, which would be the case if it were being run by a new set of managers. Earlier, we have discussed management buyout. Now, let's tackle management buy-in or MBI. It occurs when a manager of a management team from outside the company raises the necessary finance, buys it, and becomes the company's new management. A management buy-in team often competes with other purchasers in the search for a more suitable business. A management buy-in sees new external leaders buying or gaining control of a company. It is common for management buy-ins to replace the existing leadership team and board of directors. Management buy-in is often an acquisition tactic that happens when a company appears undervalued in the free market and is improperly managed or goes through a leadership succession. An MBI is seen as a riskier position by funders than an MBO as there will be a learning curve for the incoming management team to negotiate when they take control of the business. An MBI usually undergoes acquisition process. First is company analysis. First, the buyer conducts a market analysis on the target to gather data on its buyers, sellers, competitors, suppliers, substitutes, products and services, customers, the scope of business, and the financials. The buyer must also know what the other companies are looking for to buy the target because this will affect their price. Second is the negotiations. Based on the analysis, the buyer prepares an offer for the company that is targeted by the owners. Both parties will negotiate the price and may reach an agreement. Lastly, the transaction. If agreement on the price and terms are reached, the transaction will occur based on the local rules and regulations. Once the transaction is complete, the buyer can officially become the owner of the company's management team and can nominate their representatives as the board of directors. Last on the list is Executive Share Scheme. It is an arrangement which involves the periodic grant of shares in a company to the company's executive directors as an incentive for them to improve the financial performance of the company and align their interests more closely with those companies' shareholders. Executive Share Scheme is a great way for companies to reward and incentivize employees. One of the most popular or well-known ESS is that run by the John Lewis Partnership, where employees are known as partners in recognition of the fact that they have an ownership stake in businesses. Here are the most common forms of ESS. First is share option schemes. Employees are given the option to purchase shares in the business for which they work, at a price set at the time the option is granted. Even if the share price increases after that date, the employee has the right to buy at the price originally agreed. Second is share gifting schemes. Workers are gifted shares that are normally held on trust for a period of time. And lastly, share purchase schemes. Shares are offered for sale to employees, usually at a favorable price. If you would ask why companies set up a scheme, there are numbers of very good reasons why you might consider getting or setting up an ESS as part of your overall benefits package. First is according to research, ESS have a positive effect on company performance overall as well as productivity per worker. Second, employees who own shares feel more connected to the business. Their job satisfaction improves and they become focused on the company's success as an objective. Third is employees feel more loyal and this improve retention and morale. And lastly, ESS can help transform company culture, creating an atmosphere of shared enterprise and trust. Employee share schemes are used by companies to attract, retain, and motivate employees. These schemes are critically designed to align the shareholders' interests with the employees' interests, as both groups can benefit financially if the company performs well over the long term.
Good day, everyone. I am Melvin Solteo, and today I'll be discussing to you 1.5, the ways and means of promoting ethical behavior within the organization and in relation to the outside world. But before we go through, let's first define the main point of the topic, which is ethical behavior. It is the application of moral principles in a given situation. It means to behave according to the moral standards set by the society which we live in. When we say ethical behavior, it relates to the ethical standard which includes fairness. It is the quality of making judgments that are free from discrimination. Justice, as an ethical approach in the leadership and business practices, is where individuals receive equal treatment in society, regardless of their creed, racial background, professional rank, or even their social classes. Honesty is a facet of moral character that connotes positive and virtuous attributes such as integrity, truthfulness, and straightforwardness, including straightforwardness of conduct, along with the absence of lying, cheating, theft, etc. Dignity. When we say someone or something has dignity, we mean they have worth beyond their usefulness and abilities. To possess dignity is to have absolute, intrinsic, and unconditional value. And lastly, transparency in business is the basis for trust between a firm and its investors, customers, partners, and employees. Being transparent means being honest and open when communicating with stakeholders about matters related to the business. Ethical behavior is doing the right thing and adhering the professional standard. One of the importance of having ethical standard in a business is because the code provides the employees how to morally handle a certain situation they may encounter. Ethical people are those who recognize the difference between right and wrong and consistently strive to set an example of good conduct. In a business setting, ethical behavior is behavior that means applies the principles of honesty and fairness to relationships with coworkers and customers. Ethical individuals make an effort to treat everyone with whom they come in contact as they would want to be treated themselves. So now let's proceed to the ways and means of promoting ethical behavior. Number one, train employees so they know your code of conduct. It is important that employees know the rules and regulations of a business they belong to, so that they know what is the right thing to do. A code of conduct defines how a company's employees should act on a day-to-day basis. It reflects the organization's daily operations, core values, and overall company culture. As a result, every code of conduct is unique to the organization it represents. One example of informing employees what their rules and regulations are is by conducting an orientation to know what's the right thing to do. How to prepare for a job orientation. Number one, know who they need to meet. Make sure they know who will be handling their orientation on the first day. Ideally, this person will be waiting to greet the new hire when they arrive. But if not, at least they know who to ask for. If you want to take this a little further, help them connect on social media beforehand. 2. Tell them what to wear. Save them the embarrassment of showing up in the wrong clothes on the first day. Let them know what clothes they need to wear or bring to the job orientation. You can help them to prepare by sharing your company's dress code policy. Number 3. Tell them what to bring. Find some way of letting them know what they need for the first day. If you provide everything, let them know that too. Number 4, know how the job supports the company mission. Even the most basic jobs contribute to the overall purpose of the organization in some way. Let your new hires know what the mission of your company is and connect their job to that mission. Employees who have a strong overall sense of purpose connected to their jobs are easier to retain, happier, more forward thinking, and optimistic. You can get new hires started with a sense of purpose on the first day by explaining exactly how their job fits into the big picture. Number 2 in the ways and means of promoting ethical behavior is the reward ethical behavior. When an employee does something right, such as surrendering back the money he or she gets and does not know who the owner is, he or she deserves a reward from the company. It is essential to the company so that other employees will do the same. Employees who display ethical behavior should be rewarded for good ethical choices, either through financial bonuses, professional promotion, or prizes for good stewardship, while increasing profitability. Perhaps the greatest motivation toward ethical behavior in the workplace is to create a profit sharing system. Is it a good idea to reward employees for being ethical? Employers who promote ethics should reward workers who exhibit them. Promoting core values is a way to engage employees and increase their commitment and loyalty to the organization and at the same time encourage ethical decision. Number 3, lead by example. You're guiding others through your behaviors and inspiring them to do the same as you. When you lead by example, you provide a path to direct others down so that everyone is working toward a common goal with the same purpose. A leader makes it natural for people to feel like they want to do the best they can for the organization they work for. When you lead by example, you can accomplish this and have a workplace that's full of trust, confidence, and purpose. Of course, you cannot force someone to do ethical behavior if you don't lead as an example to them. Employees need to see you doing what you want to do to them so that they will do the same as you want. For example, Intel. It supplies microprocessors for computer system manufacturers such as Lenovo, HP, and Dell. Intel also manufactures motherboard chipsets, network interface controllers, and integrated circuits, flash memory, graphics chips, embedded processors, and other devices related to communications and computing. When Intel decided to stop sourcing material from conflict zone, it wasn't without cost, but as the right thing to do. The decision earned positive responses from consumers, activists, and allowed microchip producer to secure a more sustainable supply chain. A reputation for ethics helps companies to attract and retain quality employees. These individuals then foster and grow a work culture that's built around shared values. Remember that while most leaders are in position of authority, you don't have to be display leadership. Qualities are to lead others around you by example. There are many benefits that come from having leadership in place, no matter if you're an executive or a junior associate. So here are the benefits of having someone or multiple people in the workplace who lead by example. More respect and trust. Someone who leads by example can expect to receive respect from their superiors, people who work alongside them and their employees. Superiors see them as someone who can lead a team and inspire confidence in their work. Coworkers and employees see someone who leads by example as having the ability to truly understand the workplace and how everyone works together. When you have the respect of the people you work with, you become a team on a common mission. Higher productivity. Leading by example can also lead to high productivity. When you lead by example, your team will soon follow, working just as hard and accomplishing just as much to do their part for the organization. There tends to be a deeper desire to make their team proud and not let anyone down by performing below your abilities. A leader inspires others to develop efficient and effective processes with which they can produce work that meets standards and is delivered on time. Loyal employees. Even if an employee enjoys their work, they also want to enjoy the people they work with, including their leader. Leading by example means you're inspiring those around you, which should make them happy to be part of the team and employed by the company. This usually results in low employee turnover and the ability to retain and recruit top talent, so the office staff has a wide range of skills and is better able to produce at its best. Lastly, commitment to the organization. When there is a fair amount of leadership in an organization, the staff is generally more committed to the company. They strive to help the organization achieve its goals, develop more of a team mentality, and want to come up with strategies and a plan to support the company's mission, purpose, and values. When a leader leads by example by working alongside their team, it inspires others to do the same. Number four, consider how employees are treated. Treating employees fairly in the workplace is not just a moral responsibility. It is also necessary to ensure maximum company growth. When an employee is treated unfairly, it results in decreased employee morale. Low morale results in decreased employee productivity. It can also result in high employee turnover. Depending upon the severity of the unfair treatment, an employee may also file a lawsuit against your company. Employers also need to considerate with the employees before making some decisions. They need to think about carefully what the situation is and what is going to do in order to avoid making employees upset. How to treat employees fairly in the workplace. Number one, avoid showing favoritism toward one employee over another one. Doing so can cause the unfavored employee to resent you. What applies to one employee should apply to all. Do not discriminate based on race, age, religion, disability, sexual orientation, gender, or any other quality. Number two, promote an employee solely based on how qualified he is to perform the job, not because of a personal relationship. Otherwise, his promotion will appear unfair to other employees who are more qualified to perform the job. 3. Post all job openings for all employees to see, instead of verbally telling an employee about an opening. By posting all jobs opening, employees have an equal opportunity to apply for open positions. Number 4. Listen to your employee. By listening to your employee, you send the message that her opinion and feedback is important. If you do all of the talking but never take the time to listen, it's unfair. Number 5, provide each employee with an employee handbook or rule book to ensure he knows the rules. Disciplining an employee who is unaware of the rules is unfair. Along the same line, if one employee is disciplined for breaking the rules, all employees should be disciplined for breaking the rules. Number 6, recognize and reward each employee for her accomplishments, regardless of where she is on the staff hierarchy structure. Number 7, avoid lording it over your employees. It is an act in a way that shows one thinks one is better or more important than someone. Instead, treat your employees as equals. Remember that if it were not for the employees, you would not have a job. They need you. You need them. You're a team. It is okay to make a distinction if you're in a management. However, your title should not make you superior. Lastly, in the ways and means of promoting ethical behavior. Number 5, promote employees based on ethical behavior. It is important for managers to focus on accomplishing company goals while developing good relationships in the workplace, but it's equally important to focus on ethical conduct among employees. Unethical behavior in the workplace has been around since the beginning of time, but that doesn't mean it has to be acceptable in your company. Every company should have a code of ethics in place that represents the company values, responsibilities, and conduct expectations. It should act as a moral compass that guides employee in handling ethical dilemmas. Ethical conduct will ensure that your business maintains a reputation of professional principles and values. Same as the reward system, this is somehow more a special reward for the employees. When an employee does something morally correct, they are more likely to have a promotion from their company in return to the ethical behavior they did. If a manager catches an employee doing something right, they should stop and thank them. Managers could also implement a system where employees can anonymously submit examples of their colleagues behaving ethically. Ethical behavior should be included in performance reviews, and managers can encourage it by showing gratitude when they see it. When managers are respectful to their staff, they are able to develop a trusting relationship that encourage ethical behavior. Therefore, managers need to consider the company's decisions to hire, train, promote, and pay employees. They also need to make sure that what they are asking of their employees is reasonable. When managers show that they are invested in the success of well-being of their employees, it creates a company culture that is built on ethical principles. And that brings us to an end. Thank you so much for your interest and attention. God bless everyone.
Good day, everyone. I am Adrian Lapena, here to present Module 1.6, the role of Chief Financial Officer, the Audit Committee, the Internal Auditor, and the External Auditor. In most businesses, the Chief Financial Officer sits at the top chain. He or she sets the financial strategy and supervises the accountants, controllers, and finance executives who handle the everyday financial activities of the company. To attain the overall performance targets, the CFO manages the finance department's overall activities and works closely with the heads of the sub-departments. The CFO is also in charge of reviewing and approving all financial reports and transactions for the entire company before they are forwarded to the upper management for decision. It is primarily responsible for all the company's financial activities, including business planning, budgeting, forecasting, and negotiations, as well as their planning, execution, management, and operation. The CFO's responsibilities should include establishing and maintaining investor relations and as well as partnership compliance. The CFO must interact with numerous personnel of a firm, both senior and junior, as part of the executive management team. The following should be included in the CFO job description. First, directing the finance and accounting department by providing leadership, guidance, and management. Second, advising the CEO or president and other members of the executive management team on strategic concerns and recommendations. Third, managing financial planning and budgeting processes as well as directing the creation of all financial reports. Lastly, long-term business and financial planning advices. CFO nowadays are required to fulfill four distinct and difficult roles. The first conventional role is steward, who protects the organization's asset by limiting and keeping accurate records. Next is operator, who runs a tight finance operation that is efficient and effective. CFO also are becoming more important as strategists, assisting in the development of overall strategy and decision. And lastly, a catalyst who embed a financial mindset and attitude across the firm to help other aspects of the business to perform better. The job of a CFO has never been more complicated than it is now. The objective of the operator is to balance capabilities, talent, costs, and service levels to fulfill the finance organization's responsibilities. Its key focus is efficiency and effectiveness of operations, including overall risk management of the finance operation and adding value to the revenue owners. Its key roles are dynamically balancing costs, risk, and service levels in delivering on the finance organization responsibilities, defining and adapting finance operating model, and development of finance talent. The objective of this steward is to protect and preserve the asset of the organization, with a key focus on accounting and control, risk management, and preserving assets and partnering with functional and business unit owners in the risk management identification process. Its key roles are ensuring company compliance with financial reporting and control requirements, ensuring adequate assessment and mitigation of risk, and compliance with applicable regulatory or other legal requirements. Also, managing business complexity while minimizing risk as the business executes on its strategies and initiatives. The objective of the catalyst is to stimulate behaviors across the organization to achieve strategic and financial objectives. Its key focus on disciplined execution of strategic choices and changing organization's behavior and establishing a value attitude. Its key roles are gaining business alignment to successfully identify, evaluate, and execute strategies by partnering with senior management, being a business partner with other executives such as CIO, CMO, General Counsel, or CLO, the head of HR, and business unit leaders. Lastly, implementing a process to define optimal targets and to measure the performance of the strategic initiatives through the Balanced Scorecard or KPI framework. The objective of the strategies is to provide leadership with respect to aligning financial and business strategies such as mergers and acquisition, the investment and capitalization of the company. Its key focus is helping to set the future direction of the company in order to enhance business performance and shareholder value. Its key roles are leveraging financial perspective to frame acquisition of capital, undertake other investments, strategic decision making, integration of performance management, creating a capital and risk management lens to support the effective execution of the strategic initiatives of the company, and establishing, implementing, and monitoring management intervention strategy when risk issues exceed defined thresholds of risk tolerance. The audit committee must be knowledgeable of the organization's processes and internal controls in order to be successful, to monitor the choice of accounting policies and principles, and assure compliance with laws and regulations. The audit committee must coordinate with the management team, independent auditor, and the internal auditors. The nature of an audit committee's roles and obligations can be seen in its responsibilities: assuring that the organization's financial accounts are clear and accurate, examining the organization's policies, especially in issues like ethics, conflicts of interest, and fraud, assessing the organization's legal and regulatory matters, choosing and implementing a direct reporting relationship with the organization's external auditor, a public accounting firm, and lastly, getting in touch with the company's internal auditor and analyzing all the audit results. The audit committee collaborates closely with the auditors to ensure that the company's books are accurate and that there are no conflicts or interest between the auditors and any outside consulting firms hired by the company. The audit committee's chairperson should ideally be a certified public accountant. A CPA, let alone a member of the board of directors, is frequently unavailable for the audit committee. The Philippine Stock Exchange, the PSE, requires a financial expert on the audit committee. However, this requirement is frequently met by a retired banker, despite that person's ability to detect fraud being less than expert. The audit committee should meet at least 4 times a year, either in person or via teleconference, to evaluate the most recent audit. If there are any other issues that need to be addressed, a second meeting should be organized. They secure firms against fraud, point out inconsistencies in accounting methods, and on occasion, operate as consultants, assisting the business in identifying ways to improve operational efficiency. The auditor is responsible for preparing an audit report based on the financial statements of the company. They form opinions, if necessary, as an auditor's report has a high degree of assurance and reliability on the financial statements. One of their important duties is to make inquiries whether loans and advances made on the basis of security are properly secured, whether any personal expenses are charged to the revenue account where loans and advances are made, and whether the financial statements comply with the relevant accounting standards. According to the Institute of Internal Auditors, internal auditing is defined as an independent, objective assurance and consulting activity designed to add value and improve an organization's operations. The internal audit activity helps an organization accomplish its objectives by bringing a systematic, disciplined approach to evaluate and improve the effectiveness of risk management, control, and governance processes. An internal auditor generally performs the three tasks: assess any risk and the internal controls within a company, ensure that a company and its employees are in compliance with federal and state laws and regulations, and lastly, make recommendations as to what needs to be done to rectify a failed audit or issues that were identified as problematic during an audit. External auditors are certified by a governing body, the Philippine Institute of Certified Public Accountants. External auditors who are certified public accountants have demonstrated that they have a specific degree of training and expertise. External auditors come in from outside the organization to inspect clients' accounting records and express an opinion as to whether financial statements are presented fairly in accordance with the applicable accounting standards of the entity, such as the Generally Accepted Accounting Principle or GAAP or the International Financial Reporting Standard or IFRS. They must prove that the financial statements are free of material misstatement, whether caused by an error or an fraud. In order to do this, external auditors are responsible in performing a variety of tasks for their clients, including planning and implementing audit procedures, attending meetings and interviewing staff to gather evidence, examining accounts and financial records and other relevant documentation, analyzing and assessing financial reporting, fraud, or operational risk, preparing a final audit report, including making recommendations for improvements to systems and processes, and lastly, discussing the conclusion and recommendation from the audit with the clients. The key takeaways in Module 1.6, the role of Chief Financial Officer, the Audit Committee, Internal Auditor, and External Auditor are the following. The top-level financial controller for a corporation is the Chief Financial Officer, who is in charge of cash flow and financial planning. Although the role of a CFO can be gratifying, there are some regulatory requirements that must be followed. Also, CFOs are in charge of their company's tax affairs. The Audit Committee administers the financial reporting of a company and related risks, internal controls, compliances, and ethics. It must coordinate with the management and auditors to come up with financial reporting that is compliant with the accounting principles and policies. To ensure that the financial reports are accurate, the Audit Committee should be aware of the process and internal controls put in place by the company's management. The Audit Committee is responsible for appointing individual auditors along with evaluating their performance and compensation. In some organizations, they may oversee in the internal auditors as well. Internal auditors, unlike external auditors, are employees of a firm and hence are not independent of it. Internal auditors are generally internal company employee, while external auditors are always a third party to the organization and their clients. Internal auditors are more concerned with determining whether processes are operating properly, whereas external auditors are more concerned with determining whether financial statements are presented fairly. Internal auditors are often confused with the external auditors, however, there are significant differences between the professions. External auditors focus on the accuracy of the annual report and financial statements, whereas the internal auditor has a wide reaching brief which considers anything which might be important to an organization's success.
Module 1.7, Discussion of Corporate Governance Case Studies in the Local Scene. Sky's the Limit, the China Sky Saga. Investors of China Sky Chemical Fiber are caught in the standoff between the Singapore Exchange or SGX and China Sky Chemical Fiber, and there appears to be no easy way out of the mess. There are many firsts in this saga. This is the first time a listed company has defied a directive from SGX to appoint as special auditors. Instead of complying by appointing special auditors, China Sky appointed a legal advisor to act as go-between for SGX and the company. SGX has also responded with the unprecedented move of going to the courts to enforce its directive. To recap, the saga at China Sky began with a directive from SGX to the group in November to appoint special auditors. China Sky's continued refusal to comply drew a public wrath from SGX. All three independent directors of China Sky abruptly stepped down when their final attempts to persuade the company to appoint special auditors were unsuccessful. SGX has now resorted to going to court to get its directive enforced. Some market watchers are skeptical about whether China Sky directors would heed the court's order and are speculating that the worst fears of investors, the listing of the company, are likely to play out. After all, there have been cases of blatant fraud such as Oriental Century and Sino Environment, where alleged embezzlement took place and police reports against the Chinese management have been lodged in Singapore and China. But none of the directors at these companies have been known to be called to account. China Sky is a different kettle of fish. It has not been accused of any wrongdoing. This might give the directors even less reason to yield to SGX demands. Investors expecting a no-show from China Sky directors in court next Monday would probably draw some clues from China Sky release of minutes for a confidential meeting with SGX in December, immediately after SGX application to the court. China Sky has strongly defended its position, saying that it has had unqualified audit opinion from Deloitte all these years. It cited the issue of cost and the potential disruption to its operations from a special audit. Its management also accused SGX of taking out of context certain information shared at confidential meeting on December 24. In the meeting, China Sky likened itself to a bullied child in this whole episode, putting up with the various demands of SGX even when they appeared unreasonably, but even then, the prompt and full cooperation rendered by the company failed to satisfy the SGX. China Sky also published its excerpt from a telephone conversation between its chief executive Wang Zhonghuan and SGX Deputy Chief Regulatory Officer Richard Tang on December 9 that was conducted in Mandarin. The group's defense has also raised questions on whether there is merit in having a special audit in the case of China Sky and whether SGX could have taken a slightly different approach, such as using more polished Mandarin when conversing with a CEO who speaks only Chinese. The exchange could run the risk of looking bad. After all, the hoo-ha, a special audit later uncovers little or no material irregularities at China Sky. But SGX, as a frontline regulator, has to make a value judgment on when to step into a whole spectrum of corporate behavior ranging from bad practices to blatant fraud, and be judged by it. Some may argue that it would be unfair to use the outcome of a special audit in hindsight to assess the merits of a probe in the first place. Although China Sky financial statements have been given a clean bill of health by its statutory auditors, SGX says that it has received contradictory responses from the company when queried. Hence, the regulator's directive to appoint special auditors to clear the air. Still, while SGX has the right to direct companies to appoint special auditors under its listing rules, it also appears that there is little that it can do if companies choose to defy its directive. The developments over the next few weeks will be pivotal in setting the precedent on how SGX could compel compliance of its directives and listing rules. Certainly, how far and wide Singapore's rules and laws can go in addressing defiant foreign issuers will be something to be close watched by 150-odd S-chip companies.
First question. Comment on the separation or lack of between the board, management, and shareholders in a company like China Sky and how that can impact in a company's corporate governance. China Sky's management board and shareholders suffered as a result of the lack of communication. China Sky's corporate governance struggled to maintain from SGX against challenges such as conflict of interest, accountability, and transparency. They have violated the law and made judgments solely in the interest of their shareholders. They ignored the notion that they must also comply with the external forces and be as open to the public as possible. Due to their non-compliance, China Sky became irresponsible in terms of SGX compliance, causing a rift between management and the loss of some of its stockholders. It is clear that there is no unity among the board, management, and shareholders, and that some of them are operating for their benefit rather than for benefit of the company. Question number 2. Given the interested person transactions between Mr. Lai and China Sky, comment on the independence of the board of directors. Mr. Lai's accounting firm, SK Lai & Co., supplied considerable amount or accounting-related services to China Sky, and he also served on the audit committee as an independent director. Oversight was not observed in the role, and the board of directors was rendered ineffective. Mr. Lai is working on his own, not on behalf of the entire organization. To have effective governance, the executive staff must report to the board, and the board must be informed of the company's daily activity and how its goals are being met. The board serves as a check or a balance against the executive staff, protecting the interests of the shareholders. Without it, corporate employees may break state or federal law, resulting in significant fines from regulatory bodies and a tarnished public image. Number 3. Comment on the multiple directorships held by independent director Mr. Kwong Wah. In 2005, was named to China Sky's board of directors as an independent director. He was said to be on the boards of 12 publicly traded businesses in various industries as an independent director. Multiple directorships may result in responsibilities being divided. In China Sky, Kwong Wah chaired both the Nominating Committee, and the Remuneration Committee. So, he has a significant role in the company. But due to several dictatorships or directorships, he has not shown to be an effective director. He even resigned from the company due to the possibility of a lawsuit. Kwong was multiple directorships raised the possibility of him losing focus and failing to address potential risks to the organizations.
Number 4. Discuss whether the CEO and independent directors should be allowed to resign without any replacement. The CEO and independent directors may decide to quit for as long as they like, since there may be some challenges that the CEO and the independent directors face that are urgent enough that they cannot wait for arrange for a replacement. It could be a personal decision to stop working, a family issue, or an illness. However, this isn't the case all the time. It could be a deliberate act of wrongdoing or even fraud in some cases. For the sake of the company, we urge that if this is the case, essential positions such as CEO should not be allowed to leave without being replaced. Being vacant will release risk to shareholders, stakeholders, and the firm itself. The company can only allow them to quit as soon as the replacement is found to lead the company because ineffective will no longer provide an adequate service and may result in poor performance. Comment on SGX move in response to the China Sky's non-compliance with SGX request to appoint a special auditor. What else can SGX do to issuers that refuse to comply with its directives? They could make suggestions on how to improve their process, such as financial reports, corporate culture, or accounting software. SGX has the authority to halt share trading and to impose trading restrictions. Number 6. For foreign companies such as China Sky, are existing rules adequate in ensuring good governance? What else, if any, can be done to improve corporate governance of foreign companies? For us, it's a no. Existing rules can always be improved, and rules alone were not always enough to keep businesses in good corporate governance. Businesses should expand diversity, recruit competent board members, assure timely information, prioritize risk management, review board performance, and engage independent auditors to check firm operations regularly to improve corporate governance. For the final verdict, China Sky ultimately went in and hired Stone Forest Corporate Advisory Pte. Limited as its special auditor on October 25, 2012. The repairs and maintenance costs incurred in the first quarter of 2009, substantial Fujian land acquisition and interested person transactions were among the topics to be examined. Miscommunication was blamed for the first resistance on the command, and the Chinese Sky has finally come to a conclusion, at least until the special auditor's findings are released. It could take some time for the trade suspension on China Sky to be lifted, and shareholders may only wait in the meanwhile.
This sums up chapters 1.4 to 1.7 of Lopana, Om Ba Hen and Solteo. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.